Hello, God bless you. This is Dr. Dale coming to you. Look what I have for you today. Finally, after all these years of saying I was going to write this book, I finally did it. There it is. I Understand Women. Now, aren't you glad that this has been put into print? So now that you can read it and understand it and know it. For many years, I've wanted to do a book on marriage. And a number of years ago, I had a meeting with a literary agent. And he told me, he said, never write a book for a man. If you want to write a book for a man, write a book for a man that a woman will buy. So that's what I've done here. He said, because women make 80% of the purchases in the United States anyway. So why write a book for a guy when you're cutting into the market and only 20% of the guys will buy books anyway? So women, ladies, let me tell you, we've come through a phase in our history where we've been labeling essentials and non-essentials. This book is an essential. And when your husband or when your man gets it, and gentlemen, if you're one of those 20% that does the shopping, feel free to buy it yourself. Of course, it does come a little bit with a little more special spice in it if your girl gives it to you. So, but that's the subliminal message. She wants you to understand her. So this book, subtitle, is written for men who want to understand women and women who want to understand themselves. Now, I think I pretty much covered the gamut, don't you? I also had a fantastic public speaking teacher who told me, he said, whenever you make a title for a book or a teaching, make it a big fat claim. If you make it a big fat claim, then you have to come back and back it up with evidence to show that you're not a big fat idiot, but that you just made a big fat claim. I'm not a big fat idiot. I've got some experiences in my life with a wife and 4 daughters and a beautiful mother that taught me all about women. And I've been in the ministry for 50 years. And I've seen some real train wrecks when people break these principles I'm talking about in this book. And so, yes, and the book is quite humorous. It's anecdotal. It's got stories from my ministry, from my children, my wife, and they're quite funny. As a matter of fact, the back jacket of the book reads as such, and presently the book is only available in ebook, which you can get from our website, LMCI. But the back jacket, when the book is printed, will read, after 40 plus years of marriage and raising 4 daughters, Dr. Dale has poured his well-earned wisdom into this new, soon-to-become classic, his new ebook, I Understand Women. Along with insights gained through 45 plus years of ministerial counseling, the lessons his wife and daughters beat into his male brain are timeless, humorous, and thought-provoking. What you're about to unpack are valuable truths that will help you to survive and even thrive in a pink, estrogen toxic environment. Learn what you can expect from a woman, how to really define and take care of her needs, the secret to a successful marriage, how to behave during her monthly period, how to deal with the difficult ones, and dealing with men on pause. Yes, read these lessons and then decide for yourself, does Dr. Dale really understand women? Or is this just a preposterous title written by an old man who thinks pink and is chronically stricken with estrogen toxicity? You'll have to read for yourself and find out. And plus, there's one more disclaimer here. Warning, PG-13 rated. This publication has no regard for political correctness or religion. And so I really, really enjoyed writing the book. And in it, I had in mind, and the book is 20 lessons on understanding women and the essentials and what you need to do, mister, to survive. So some of the topics in the table of contents, and then I want to read a couple little excerpts from you just so you can get an understanding of what the book is about. The table of contents, all she needs is love. She needs to be appreciated. Women are not equal to men. I need to read you an excerpt from that one. Women like to be pursued. Don't push their security button. Don't ever embarrass her. Selfishness, the poison of relationships. She needs to be rescued. Woo-hoo. Amen. Send her on vacation. Now that's a hot chapter there, a hot lesson. Don't take her on vacation. Send her on vacation, because what she needs a vacation from is you, generally. Guys and girls and gals that are mothers. Hey dad, don't talk about the boobs. This is written for fledgling fathers. What about periods? That's the one that is absolutely essential. Mr. Right or Mr. Wrong. Lesson 13, treat her like a Cadillac. Atta boy. And you're riding fine style, or you might find yourself walking and stranded. Lesson 14, she needs she friends. Lesson 15, you got to build her up, you idiot. And then 16, and this is the one that, as the women that's read this, that they've been most impressed by this chapter. Chapter 16, lesson 16, hey girl, tell me about your daddy. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in just a moment. And then what about the difficult ones? Another favorite of the women that read this. And then dealing with men on pause. Then lesson 19, the necessity of forgiveness. And then lesson 20, the better a thing can be at its best. And I'm really happy about putting these things into your hands. And as I'm sharing this with you, I've got this little smirk on my face, because I know the anecdotal reaches of what this will do and the impact it will make. I've learned, being in the ministry for many years, that the only effective way to ever really deal with religious spirits is get them to laugh at themselves. And many of us get religious in our activities, in our marriages, in our relationships, and it's good to sort of get outside of our own comfort zone and look at things from a fresh perspective. Let me read to you a couple little excerpts from the book here. This is the one about periods, and I felt especially blessed, privileged to write this. As I read this to you, what about periods? Just bear with me here. Perhaps I have accrued such wondrous knowledge about women because of the foundation my precious mother laid. She was a delightful lady, full of Irish sass, who did not take any lip from me or my two other, and I might add, older brothers. She was a very wise lady who made the best biscuits in the world, but that is another story. This, however, is a true story and relates to the subject of this lesson, periods. One night when I was in the 6th grade, my mother slips into my bedroom just before bedtime, aware that neither of my brothers are in there yet. She shut the door behind her, sat on the bed with this Twilight Zone look in her eyes, and sort of nervously said to me, your dad and I thought it would be best for me to have a talk with you about the facts of life, like sex and those kind of things. At the mention of sex, I turned my head sideways, much like the old RCA puppy dog look of that era, because I did not know how to answer. Now, mind you that I had much more sex education than most 12-year-old boys could have possibly had, since I had two older brothers who were always anxious to spellbind me with their stories and exploits in which they were inadvertently the heroes that got the girl, and they were eager to play the role of sex educator to their naive little brother in the process. Not to mention that I then became the lecturer at recess to all my peers and became renowned as an expert in the subject. So when my mom said to me, I calmly, responded, okay, so what do you want to know? She was stunned by my response, but only for a few seconds. She recovered quickly and said, well, since you know so much about periods, you don't mind if I ask you some questions to see how much you know? Sure, Mom, fire away, I retorted with the calm confidence of a 6th grade school ground sex educator. Okay, she said, what is a period? Now it was my turn for the deer in the headlight look. Mom, I said with a furrowed brow, I thought you said we were going to talk about sex, not English. Thus begat my trek in understanding periods. Thanks, Mom. Were it not for you, I would still be stuck in 6th grade English class, and as a playground sex educator, I've learned a few things since then. And what I've learned about periods, gentlemen, and that is that, and saying this, one of my claims to writing this book is that I've figured out how many periods I've had experience in dealing with. And I've had a wife who menstruated through all her years, and 4 daughters who menstruated from the time they were 13, and I figured to the time they were 21, at each one of them, 7 or 8 years times 12 times 4, you get the picture. I've had more experience. I've had experience, I counted it, with at least 636 women's periods, where an average woman only has experience with like 400 of them. So I've had more experience in dealing with women's periods than any other one single woman has. Now, why would you not want to listen to proverbial wisdom like this to help you in being a successful man and understanding women? And women, maybe I can help you understand yourself in this a little bit too. Remember, an objective viewpoint is always needed, isn't it? Another one of the lessons that I wanted to share with you is I put in this book my great truth that I've garnered for so many years, and that is the greatest weapon that a guy has to use against a woman. And I share this with reservation, even here putting this on social media, because of the great disdain and rejection and even hatred I could receive in releasing this great piece of information for men. Let me tell you this secret that absolutely baffles women. They have no answer for. You can always use this when you're in dire straits of being challenged or maybe even criticized, if that's ever happened to you. What makes this such a great weapon to use in an argument is that this is both defensive and offensive. So I say here, it takes real balls to use this. If you can muster up the testosterone, it really works. So here it is. The great secret is silence. And I put that in small print so that only a man could see it, like he would look for his camouflage wallet in the woods, by the way. Who in the name of God would have a camouflage wallet? Okay, I did. I admit it. But I lost it. Never again. Anyway, sorry. A woman cannot stand it when you say nothing. When she goes into her rants about you or what you did or did not do, or what she thinks you're thinking, remember, Dr. Dale's remedy: shut up and say nothing. Silence is golden. It is a weapon of desperation, but it works. Here's a warning. If you use this weapon, you're likely to have to listen to the same butt chewing at least a couple more times, because she is convinced that you don't get it until you've heard it at least 3 times, or that you're hard of hearing, or maybe she thinks that the guy next door needs to hear this too. And the blood pressure will increase. Remember the pulse in the neck and the temple and the change of color? So be ready, because she will utter her ultimate reprisal scream at you. Don't just stand there or hide behind the couch and say nothing. So do you know what you do? You stand there and say absolutely nothing. Now guys, this is tough, but it will and can save your life. If you have heard what she said at least 3 times, here is the strategic release line to use. And if you use it, you'll get the last word in every argument with your wife. It is the hallowed reply that every husband learns, and the wiser ones learn it sooner than the hard-headed masochist. The famous last words in any argument with your wife is, "Yes, dear." After you say that, if she starts it again, which is not unlikely, you can sort of duck your head and say, "I need to go think about this." Or if you really are repentant, you can say, "I need to go pray about this," and make sure you do not lie when you leave the interrogation room, because you should pray and thank God that you escaped. So that's the great weapon that a man has to use against women. You know, the earlier chapters in the book, the earlier lessons in the book are pretty simple, you know, like she needs to be loved, she needs to be appreciated, you know. Oh, and I was going to tell you about the one about women are not equal to men. I have to read this to you. It's got a great quote in it. So I'll actually read the quote to you that I used in the book. This comes from a British novelist and philosopher whose name is William Golding. Beware, this is a PG rated material, so there's a word in here that I'll have to doctor to make this socially media acceptable. But William Golding said this about women: "I think it is foolish for women to pretend that they are equal to men. They are far superior and always have been. Whatever you give a woman, she will make greater. If you give her sperm, she will give you a baby. If you give her a house, she will give you a home. If you give her groceries, she will give you a meal. If you give her a smile, she will give you her heart." So she multiplies and enlarges everything you do. So if you give her any crap, be ready to receive a ton of chit. C-H-I-T, properly supplied. So William Golding understands women, for sure, for sure. A couple more little ditties here, and then I'll let you go, but you really ought to check the book out. As I said, in the earlier portions of the book, pretty simple things, but in the latter chapters, especially 16 and 17, chapters 16 and 17, I really believe the Lord helped me in dealing with some things. Chapter 16 is, hey girl, tell me about your daddy. And if you can ask a woman to tell you about her father, then you can find out what you need, what she will expect from you. And you know what she really wants from you is what her dad did not give her. Now this is a great mystery, but if you can figure out what her dad did not give her and fill that bill, you will be the hero, the icon of the ages, right? And then I have another one here about how and how to deal with the difficult ones. And I've been very blessed in my life. I married an absolutely fantastic woman of faith and a woman of God. And my mother was a fine woman. And I come from a good family and I had good examples, but not everyone does that. And sometimes guys, you know, they marry Herman Munster's daughter, you know, or whoever. But how do you deal with the difficult ones? And this is a great chapter because the solution to how do you deal with the difficult ones, you can't just love them. You have to love them into loving themselves. And that is why they're difficult, is they don't love themselves. And the more difficult ones actually hate themselves because of what other men generally have done to them and the abuse that they've gone through. So as I introduce the book to you, I want you to receive it in honest conscience. It's written to be very effective, but it's written in an anecdotal, humorous way, so to speak, at least I think it is. And I think that you'll enjoy reading the book and enjoy discussing it with your wife and learning these things about her. And women, don't discount the fact that you can read this and understand things about yourself. I had one of my dear spiritual sister friends tell me, she said, I want to read your book to see if you really know what you're talking about. And she wrote me back, she said, when I read chapter 16 and 17, I realized that you really did, so thank you. And this will really help my husband and me too. So, Testimony of an Expert. Please enjoy the book. I Understand Women. It's done by Dr. Dale. It's on the lmci.org website. It's an ebook. I think it's $10 for the ebook. And but get yours today. Hopefully we can get this out to you so that your wife will give it to you for Father's Day and you won't have to buy it, guys. But anyhow, ladies, get this for your husband. You won't be disappointed, and neither will he. You'll enjoy reading it and even reading it together. All you gentlemen out there, happy Father's Day. You're the heroes and the anchors of our lives and our society. So we need you to really stand up and be men right now. And you need to understand women.